So hi guys, good afternoon. So I'll be continuing on the first thing that we spoke about on developing web applications. So in the first part of this of this assignment number 1 for the course of software engineering, we saw about how web applications work in general, how communication over the internet happens overall, like just a few things. We touched upon a few things about the cloud, okay, and now we are going to talk about creating your first web application. Now why would you need your own web application? So we saw that in earlier, right? So we saw that the Nginx that we all installed on Ubuntu, the Nginx software really just listens on a port on a machine, right? So a client can talk to that port and it can just serve a static file. Now once you serve a static file onto the client then has a responsibility to render it, right? So in our case, what we want to do is just you want to have a custom logic. So instead of just showing up random like this static files, you want to show like, hey, show me the current time, right? It's a simple application. Let's just say you want to have a server that shows you the current time. It just gives you the current time. That's it, right? So you cannot have a file for each time and you can weird stuff, right? So that's why you need a web application to kind of have to develop these custom things that you want to make or something like that, right? So in this case, I'm just going to talk about developing a first web application, and trust me guys, it's really easy. All right, so it's going to be a piece of cake. You can do it in half a sleep, and for this one I don't think you're gonna need much time at all. Okay, to make sure that I stay on my point, I'm gonna do this. Okay, I'm gonna take this weight, woo, okay, and I'm going to exercise by the time I finish making this application. All right, wait, let's do it. Okay, so the first step that we have is about setting up your IDE. Okay, that's the first step you do ever, right? So in this case, I like to use VS Code as my IDE. So that's why what I'm going to do now is I'm going to first of all open up VS Code. Okay, there we go. We have the VS Code open right now. Now I'm going to, okay, it's not, let me just show it here. VS Code, where are you? Okay. Where are you, VS Code? Okay. Well, great. So now we can, once you see this is the VS Code, right? That is what your initial screen would look like. Well, what you would do is, of course, so this won't be there. It would be something like this, right? So what we are going to do now is we are going to, yeah. So we are going to go to the section on the left here. It's called extensions, and we're going to search for Spring Boot tools. Okay. This is when you search that, you should be able to see the following this one, right? So once you click on the install button, there we go, and oh sorry, I'm clicking here. So you click on install it and you're all set. Well, I told you, well, I'm going to keep this down, it's just too silly right now. Okay, great. So once you have it installed, you essentially are configuring this VS Code to give you help in terms of creating a new application. All right, so I'm going to close it for now. All right, I'm going to go back to my presentation. There we go. Okay, so now the first thing to think about is whenever you have whenever to start a new application. Just one second, guys. Okay, there you go. So now whenever you have to start a new application, the one thing I want you to remember, right? I'm going to give you a life mantra right now. If you have problems, this is a solution to all of your problems, right? So the first thing to know about is, you know what, the answer to all of the problems is start.spring.io, right? So if you go to start.spring.io, right? So whenever let's just say you're having the toughest day of your life, all right? You come home, all right, from your 9 to 5 job, and you're like, damn man, that was a long day. What do you do? Start.spring.io, all right? Let's just say your mom is unhappy with you because you're, I don't know, like maybe you're spending a lot of money. Start.spring.io, right? Your professor, she's not giving you grades, all right? The TA is being very mean to you, not answering your questions. What do you do? You go home and repeat after me, guys. Start.spring.io, all right? Very simple. Any problem in life you have, right? You're having a mad crush on this girl or this guy, and they're not giving you an opportunity for date. What do you do? You know the answer. It's start.spring.io. Alright? There we go. So now since you have start.spring.io in your head, let's move on. Okay? The first thing you do is, okay. So the thing is, it allows you to create a new Spring project. All right. Now in our case, we're going to make a Spring project that it's a web application. Okay. So if you go to this web page, and I'm going to take this down a little bit. Hold on. Okay. If you go to the web page, you should be able to see something like this. Now when you see this, it's going to ask you a few questions, and then you can like make stuff about like how to do it. So like which things you want, which things you don't want. In my case, in our case, we're going to make it as a Maven project. Unless you know what you're doing, just keep with the basic ones that we have here. The Java, of course, we're going to the Java language. You can also use Kotlin, and you can always go which version of Spring Boot do you want. Just go with the stable one. That for this time is 2.3.3, and that's the name of your project. You can just give it like the package names and everything. Make sure the packaging is jar, and the Java is version 11, because that is the current long-term support version, right? So moving on, I need to add a few dependencies, right? So guys, remember, Spring framework can be used for creating many applications, like desktop applications, another application, like I would say queue applications, command line applications, anything you know of. So in this case, we do need web stuff. So what we're going to do here is, I'm going to say, and also you need like developer tools. So when the developing an application, you want to have those tools installed. I'm going to say dev tools, yes. I'm going to add a dependency, go down and say, hey, I need the Spring Web. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to go down, and do we need anything else, right? So like, so do you need anything? Do you need like the web services, the Vadin, that's for creating web components, and the UI stuff, and the time relief and everything, right? So for us, we do need to have time relief. So I'm going to select that. You don't need it, but hey, you know what, you can say REST repositories also, and we are all set, right? So okay, so why are we adding this? So dev tools is for the developer tools. So it can essentially live reload and application restart. So whenever you make a change, you don't have to like go back, stop it, start again. So this one, right? So you can say that the Spring Web is for creating any web application. Okay, it can be using an MVC architecture, all right, and it uses like, so you don't have to configure a lot of things. You don't have to configure like the Tomcat and the runner and everything. Okay, it does everything by itself. And then you have time relief. Time relief is used as a templating, as a templating engine, right? So it acts like a view layer in your application. So you would essentially be creating time relief pages, and you're supposed to populate them with information, with the relevant information, right? And the last one we actually don't need for now, because we can just stay with these three. I think for the entire course, these three should be good enough, right? And when I say generate, is going to download a zip file there, right? I'm going to open it, showing the finder. Okay, I'm going to decompress it, all right? And when I do that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open my terminal over there. Hold on a second. There you go. Where's the terminal? Okay, just one sec. Okay, dismiss. Give me 1 sec here. Where is iTunes? There we go. Should be okay. Should be there now. Why is it not there? There we go. Oh, it's there here. Okay, awesome, wonderful. So we see that is my terminal, right? So I downloaded my application from here, and it's in my terminal right now. So if I go in here and one second guys, there we go. So for in my terminal, I'm going to cd to that thing I just downloaded. I think it was demo, I guess it was demo 2. Yep, demo 2. Alright, I just unzipped it, right? And if I say ls now, you can see that these are the files that we have. I'm going to open it in my VS Code editor, like so. So when you do that, your VS Code editor should open up, right? Let me just add the display over here, capture. Sure. Okay. This one. Zoomed in. This is not a little. beautiful. Right, there we go. So now in this case you can see that we have this VS Code running. Alright, and here I've already installed the Spring Tool suite, the Spring Tool thingy, right? So if I go to the source, why is it not showing here? Okay, this one is something else. Well, I selected the wrong VS Code window to show in the video. So if you open up this, it's something like this should show up. Alright, so if you go to if you look at the files, right, so .mvn folder, this is where all of your Maven repositories and all would be there. Maven dependencies all are there. .vs code is just about a file for my current VS Code installation. You don't need it there, right? The third one is about src, is where all of your code resides. Then after that we are looking at the main folder, main Java. So you all know this is like the place where you start. This is the main, the main function. The resources folder is where you have your static files and your templates. In the case of us, it's Thymee leaf templates. They all will be there. Okay, to go on, these are your test cases. We'll look at them towards the end of this course. .gitignore is a place where you don't want to push everything to GitHub, right? You want only the things that is source code to push to GitHub. Like these files, like .settings files or like temporary files, those don't have to go there. So what you do is just it's there. So you go to the help.md, it talks about just about things. You can change it, remove it. Now mvnw is a command wrapper. So what you have is you need Maven to run a few commands, right? To download all the dependencies, to start the Spring Boot application. All right, so that is what you need have. So this is for Mac OS or OS X, and that's for the Windows. So don't worry about it. Form.xml file is an important file to know of. Here is where all of your dependencies reside, right? It talks everything about the project, the metadata. So like we have something like the description of the thing, the name of the application, the properties, that is which Java version is required, and all the dependencies are all listed here, right? So whatever we did was, whenever we selected that create a new project on start.spring.io, all we did is we just populated this dependencies chart, and we populated this pom.xml file. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, okay, we have this. Now what we do is we set up the IDE, we get that creating your first application. In this case I'm going to create a new class, right? Pretty simple. I'm going to give it first controller, okay, .java. Okay, and we know that it has to be like that. Okay, I messed up the convention. It has to be F is capital. Okay, so like public sec. Okay, so we public class, right? All right, so just create a public class. Now to make sure that hold on a sec. Okay, wonderful. So now what we're going to do is, once you create this class, I want the Spring framework to know that this is a class that it has to understand as a controller. Now we're going to study about the model view controller architecture later in the course, but just so you know, controller is one that manages everything, right? So I'm going to create a first class and I want to annotate it, right? So like we do classification. So every class has its type. Okay, so in this case is the type of a class is you can annotate it. This is called as annotation. So any class you can annotate it with @rest controller, right? When you do that, enter, there we go. Now this is a controller. All right, one more thing, if you're not getting these suggestions, it's kind of a take down, and in here you can see that this one, right? So it's like here there will be like running it. So there will be a button to kind of select it and run it in standard mode. So like what happens is your Java, it runs in light mode. It's called a light mode. Like if you see here, just go down here, so you can see the bottom, you can see the GIF in here, right? Just click on the button and click on the yes button. All right. Oh, sorry, hold on. Let me show you Chrome for a sec. Okay, if you look at this one, right? If you look at the, hold on. So if you're not getting those suggestions, what I'd like to do is just go there Okay, and just hold on a sec. See there in the bottom of Java, click on the rocket, like we say, click on that one and just select on that, and you should be all set. All right, so it kind of does not give you suggestions otherwise. All right, so that's why you kind of enable those suggestions. Now moving on, one second again, let me get back to the view. Okay, great. So now once I have this controller, I'm going to create a new function in here. So public string. Okay, I'm going to say hello. I'm just going to return hello spring. All right, there you go. So now this is a simple function, right? Now how do you, now here's the thing, you might have so many classes and so many functions. How do you know, how do you tell Spring that hey, when to call this function? You can tell that by, again, annotations. So like at the rate. So these annotations are, again, it's a property of one second, request mapping. All right, so whenever there is a request at the /, so that is your domain name /, right? You remember the URL, right? It's your domain name and the /. That's called your home, that's called your root domain, right? The root path. So when a path is root, hey, so I'm configuring my so I'm still coding, right? So I'm making this application, so I'm coding my application to say, like, you know what, whenever you get / this, make it as run this function, and whatever is the output, just give it back to me. All right, and now hold on, why is it a problem? Oh, you might have to add the package there. Never mind. Do that, enter. I forgot about that part. So of course, since it's in the same package, so make sure you add it in the same package. All right, so now what I'm going to do now is, once you have this installed, once you have this configured, you want to run it, right? So what you do is you just kind of open up your terminal. In my case, I'm just going to use the one that is built in. All right, and I'm going to be like mvnw. All right, so all these commands again are on their website, and also you can find it in like there. So it's for the mvnw spring-boot :run, mvnw spring-boot :run. There you go. When you do that, it's going to run this application. All right, it's going to scan whatever things you have made, and going to download all of your dependencies, and will start your application on port 8080. If you do not give him any other port, it's going to default to port 8080. You can see that it says started demo application in this many things, and it's running. You see, it tells you Tomcat initialize with port 8080. So now if I go to my browser again, show me Chrome, right, and go up. There we go. So if I show you, if I go to my browser again, okay, and I go to localhost 8080. Now localhost is the address of my current machine, right? So that's why you call the localhost. That is your local host. Localhost means your current machine, and you're saying port 8080. Now let's say you want to change it to hello spring, so hello world spring. Okay, when you do that and you save it, remember we had the so we had the developer plugin installed, right? That's why when you save it, what is going to happen is like it's going to refresh. So you see, it automatically restarted. When you refresh it, there we go, hello world spring, right? That's pretty much it. Okay, so what we did is we just created a new application. We we ran it. Okay, one thing to always remember before you run an application is like make sure it's like the statistical analysis is there. For example, like if there are any errors, you resolve them. If there are any unmet imports, you resolve them. Your IDE usually shows everything there. So it's kind of, if let's say I don't import something, it's going to give a red mark. Okay, it's going to give a red mark, so make sure you solve it first. There you go. A good resource for everything in this case is going to be Spring. So like the guides is pretty good. You go to spring.io. Okay, you go to hold on, you go to Spring Guides. So Spring Guides. Okay, you Google that up. You can go here and you can see there are so many guides you can go on for, right? You can, like, you want to have a RESTful application, you want to make something in RabbitMQ, validate form input, everything. We'll be using this one a lot. Here this one is about getting started. This should be about getting started. This one, right? So here is you can use something that for hold on, I use getting started guides, and in here I created this one, and here is this is what we used. So I just refer to this one from here. That's pretty much it about this application. All right, so moving on, what we have now is, one sec, capture window, iPad. Nope. There we go. Okay, wonderful. So we know how to run it now. Next thing is uploading it to GitHub, right? So in this case, what we're going to do now is very simple. You kind of go to your web page, your thingy, right? Ensure we have to use your classroom repositories, right? So everybody in this class has their own repository. We know that using the link, you go to the Blackboard, you go to the link, you register your account, and then you have your own repository, right? But in this case, just for the demonstration of it, I'm going to just create a new one. I'm going to call it fall 21. Okay, for now I'm going to keep it private, and all right. In this case, guys, remember we already have an application now. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I can just follow these commands. I think so we have covered all of these git commands in the previous labs, so I'm going to do that again. If I go to my thing, I stop my application. All right, stop it. So stop, you can just do control C is for stopping. I'm going to paste this, there we go, and we should be all set. So if I refresh now, where's my repository? There we have it. We have all of our, oops, okay, so that is the first commit, never mind. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add all of the things. In this case, I just added one file. I'm going to say git add dot. When I do that, it's going to add everything. Again, if you, by the way, one thing about VS Code, you can see on the left hand side, okay, let me just put it back here. Chrome goes behind. There you go. So if you go on the left hand side, you can see that what are the changes that are kind of you're pushing them. So when I say git add a dash, it kind of staged all of them. All right. This is a very good thing. You can just say added my first application, save it, and then you can push it. To push, you can just click on this button on the bottom. All right, and it should be all set now. Of course, you can always do git commit using the command line, which I really prefer you guys do. But if not, this is fine too. Right? And there's no for me to check, what are you doing. There we have it, right? This is the first application. You go to the source, you go to the main, you go to demo, and this is your first controller. Well, voila, we have your first application. It's on the GitHub, right? Now running it on the server. Now what you do is you would do this every single time you make a change. Okay, so what we are going to do now is we're going to open up your server, and we are going to hold on. Okay, now I'm going to log into my server, right? So you remember the one that we did earlier? I think it was, nope. There we go. That is a command to log into the server, right? So remember, we are going to now copy this code to over that server. I'm going to do that. Okay, I'm in the server. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say git clone. Okay, and I'm going to add this one. I'm going to add this repository over here. There we go. Now how do I get that link? Is using this. If you go to the git repository, right, you can see that on the right hand side on the corner over here, we can see the code. Click on that, and this is the link to your repository, right? Click on it, and that's how you kind of get it. Now back to my term, if I do it, enter, it's going to ask me for my username and password. All right, so just give me a sec. So again, if you have, in my case, I have a two-factor authentication enabled for my GitHub. In that case, I need to kind of add a new application, and kind of like some process to kind of get a password which can be used only for that one. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go to my developer settings. Hold on a second. Personal access tokens. Let me show my code here. So it's simple. You go to your settings, personal access tokens. This is only if you have two-factor authentication enabled, which most of the students I know must not have. Okay, so don't worry about it if you don't have this. All right. Okay, so I have my token, which of course I'm going to delete after we are done with this video. All right, I'm going to paste it. There you go. There we have it. If I do ls now, hey, there it is. That is where you can see. Oopsie, on my don't show Chrome. There you go. There it is. You can see we have our project file over there. If I go to my F820 ls, again we're going to do same thing. Now here what happened is, if you choose mvnw, okay, let's see if it works. First of all, the first thing you do is, one thing I forgot is praying to God. All right, so whatever God you believe in, if this thing has to work, it has to be with its grace. All right, so I mean, if you believe in God, right? So hey man, please work, come on. Alrighty man, come on. Yep, there we go. It started on port 8080. All right, so now what I'm going to do now is, hold on a sec, open up that port. Remember, if I go to my let me show Chrome again. If I open up my AWS console, remember we only opened the port 80. That's all we did, right? We only opened port number 80. In this case, we need to open up the other port too. So in this case, the application is using port 8080. So we're going to open that. I go down here, click on my EC2 instance, scroll down, go to my security settings. There you go. Go to the security group that I have. Opens up, add a new rule. Remember, we did the same thing for HTTP. I'm going to add a custom TCP rule. Going to make it 8080 and allow it from anywhere. And I'm going to say save rules. Once you have this done, if I go home to my EC2 instances, go to my running instances, scroll down a little, that's my instance, right? If I copy the URL that we have, there we go, and if I paste it again, this should be the hello world that we saw earlier. But if I do this now, 8080 is going to be hello world Spring, because the application is running. Now, one thing that is like, there you go, your application is there, it's running. Now, how to actually make it like more meaningful, like maybe to get some information from the user and then get back to it. We're going to look at that. We're going to look at that later, right? So that's how you can essentially run. But remember, what happens is when I close this connection, right, it goes away. So for that, what we have to do is we have to compile your Spring Boot application into a runnable jar. And after that, you're going to run it as a systemd service. So whenever your server starts, your application starts automatically with it. All right, great, wonderful. That is what we have today. Hold on, let me get back to the not this one. Okay, so we open up that port, and there we have it. All right. So deploy. We're gonna look at for the next assignment, because this one is optional. So you know, few people who are able to go to it, you can get it done. And thank you. Always remember, with great power comes responsibility. Who cares? Make web applications, right? It's free. It has you can do your own ideas. You can do whatever you want here. We'll explore how to generate a good UI and so forth. So that's it from my end. Thank you and have a nice day, guys. Peace out.